Greetings, fellow movie lovers and sweaties. It's your boy, Mikey Savage 21, the Prince of all sweaties, bringing you the first episode of the weekly Sweaty Review, the podcast where we review, break down, and discuss movies, television shows, and all the sweaty goodness that we nerds love and enjoy. And speaking of we, I am joined by my co-host and longtime friend, Neospace, the angriest sweaty on the interwebs. Neo, how you feeling, man?
Kind of angry.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of hangry too. I got some Longhorn that's sitting up in the fridge that I really am hungry about, but I still got to make it to Books A Million though, so I can use that discount. I need to go pick up the latest volume of My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia aside, today's sweaties, Neospace and I will be talking about Dragon Ball Super Broly and breaking down this movie, as well as giving our unfiltered thoughts on the movie. First, we'll start off with our thoughts on the older Broly films, followed by a minor breakdown of the new canon film, and finally, we'll go into the full-blown spoiler discussion. So we'll make sure you give you plenty of warning before we jump right into the spoiler discussion. So, Neos, my first question to you is, what do you think of the original Broly character created by Takao Koyama?
Well, the first Broly, I kind of looked at him as just a brutish meathead himself, and just didn't really give it, and just kind of destroyed to destroy. He was boring. He was kind of one-dimensional. He was a big meathead.
I agree with that 100%, man. Growing up when I was little, I thought Broly was like the best character ever. But that's because as a little kid, you know, you're not really looking at the bigger picture. You're just focused that, oh man, this dude he is huge. He has got massive gains, and he's just throwing the Z fighters around like it's nobody's business. It's like Goku can't beat him, Gohan can't beat him, Piccolo can't beat him, Trunks and Vegeta can't beat him. And this is all post Room of Spirit and Time. So everybody should be all jacked up. No, Broly is still whooping their tails. So I first thought Broly was the best movie character ever, and then until, you know, Janemba came around, and then he became my favorite, and still technically is my favorite. But looking back on the original character of Broly, while I still like his design and the concept of him, to me, I agree with you. He seems like a big meathead. He barely has any dialogue. Especially once he gets to his legendary state. At that point, he just randomly says things, and then when you get to the later on movies, he basically just says one word the whole time, which is very stupid. I didn't care for his backstory. I liked the concept of King Vegeta exiling his son and saying no, he's going to be sent off to a faraway planet. But the whole thing about him being angry because Goku cried, that was so absolutely stupid. Like, very stupid, because I'm like, there were probably plenty of babies next to me when I was in my pod growing up. You don't see me trying to hunt them down and kill them, being angry because someone cried next to me. So I just thought that was just an original character flaw. I thought it was stupid. Also didn't care for Paragus. I felt like they didn't do anything with this character. They just made him seem like a real bit of a douchebag. They didn't do anything to make us as an audience sympathize with this character. And so, like I said, I love Koyama. I love what he did with the Broly character, and I love Akira Toriyama's original design. But I gotta say, I do prefer the newer one better. And so that leads me to the second question, man. What did you think of the older Broly movies? This would be Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, Broly Second Coming, and Bio Broly. Out of those three, what did you think of those, man? And which one was your favorite?
All right, so I'm going to start just by listing my opinions on each one of them, and then I'm going to tell you which one was my favorite, because you'd be surprised. I hated all three of them.
I mean, I kind of hate all three of them in a way myself, but I do have one that is still kind of like one of my guilty pleasures that I watch every once in a while.
If it's like me, it's Legendary Super Saiyan.
Yep.
That movie was actually okay. I'm still misunderstanding what the hell was going on at the beginning, but I learned with Dragon Ball movies to just not ask.
Right. They don't do a good job of explaining things right up front. You just kind of have to assume or get on like forums or different websites to kind of explain for you.
That was just a headache I did not want to deal with.
That's when the trend of just saying one word started.
And then Bio Broly just I'm going to make the censors go off here if I give my honest opinion. What the actual literal were they thinking? That's all I can say.
To be honest, it was a cash grab. It was a cash grab. That's all it was. They saw how popular Broly was, and they're like, hey, let's do this.
It was a straight up fan service cash grab.
And you know, the sad thing is, Bio Broly could have actually worked as a good movie if it would have been structured out a little bit more. But yes, I agree. That movie was a piece of crap. Bio Broly was awful. Second Coming is when the trend started of him just saying the word Kakarot over and over again. So at that point, I was checked out. To be honest, the only reason I even care to even talk about that movie is because I still debate with people about whether Gohan was in Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2. By the way, he was in Super Saiyan 2, and I want you all to come at me in the comment section if you think otherwise. But yeah, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan is still one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. I don't ever really plan to come back and visit the other two unless it's, you know, for discussion purposes. But the first one I still think is the best because at least they tried to tell a story.
A loosely knit story.
Right, and it had some interesting things in there, like we got to learn more about how the Saiyans send out their young. I mean, we had already got hints of this and seen it in the actual Bardock special, but, you know, with Broly, they expounded on that a little bit more. And so, like I said, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, but it's a film that I don't often go back to, like, especially now that we have this new iteration, I probably won't even visit it that much. So, you heard our thoughts about the old films. Again, both of our favorite movie out of the old trilogy would have to be Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan. To me, that's the only film really worth talking about. The other two films are just cash grabs, to be honest.
They really are. I gotta say, my favorite out of all of them is none of them. If I could pick the new one over all three of them, I will.
Oh, yeah, same here, same here.
But here's a spoiler alert, guys. I don't like it either.
Interesting. That's going to be an interesting discussion then. All right, guys. Well, that's going to let us transition into the new Broly film, Dragon Ball Super Broly. Again, this is the 2018 film. Again, it was directed by Tatsuya Nagamine, and of course, it was written by Dragon Ball series creator Akira Toriyama, and then it's the third film produced with Toriyama's direct involvement, and the first one being Battle of Gods, second being Resurrection of Elf, and now this film. And of course, it's the first one to carry the Dragon Ball Super branding as opposed to the Dragon Ball Z branding. This movie, to me, did a lot of interesting things in its theatrical run. Like, I'm looking here and it's ranked at the 11th highest grossing anime films ever, you know, only behind Pokemon the movie 2000, and we all remember how epic that movie is when it came out. But if you look at the numbers, it's only about a 15 million difference. You know, I think, you know, if they would have had a little bit more of a market push and they would have put it out in a few more theaters and would have let it stay a little bit longer, probably would have did a little bit better and probably would have beat Pokemon the movie 2000. But not only that, and I was actually saving this because I actually didn't tell Neos this when we were getting set up earlier. The Rotten Tomato score for this film, it's high. If you want to look at it, this movie is certified fresh. And as of lately, it had 54 reviews come in, and the audience score is very high. So it got an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes out of, again, 54 reviews, and it has a 93% like ratio of the audience score. Now, again, we know the audience score means nothing. The only one that really means anything is the one where they actually go to the theater and actually interview people, because people have been able to use IMDb and other things like Rotten Tomatoes to persuade a person to whether or not to go see a film. So Dragon Ball Super Broly had a lot that it have to do in terms of this movie, because not only was it reintroducing an old fan favorite character, but it was bringing it into the main continuity of the series. And so again, if you guys do not know what Dragon Ball Super Broly is, it's set after the events of the Universal Survival Saga depicted in the Dragon Ball Super anime. And the film follows series protagonists Goku and Vegeta as they encounter the powerful Saiyan named Broly. In the beginning, it tells the story of the history of Saiyans and the background story of these 3 Saiyans with different destinies connected to the turbulent future of their race, and later resulting in a massive fight between them. And so this film, if you want to think about it, it borrows heavily from the first film, especially when you get to the main bulk of the story, but it takes that original concept and turns it on its head. Like, one thing is, they took out the whole stupid thing of Broly hates Goku because he is crying. He cried next to him. That is done away with. That is absolutely done away with. Thank goodness. I know, right? That was, again, like I said, I could rant about that for hours and hours and hours on end.
Most plot point ever. I can't believe they did it. Let's just not talk about that anymore, because that could be a whole separate podcast for us.
I chalk that up to being like the Star Wars prequels.
No.
Stupid. No. Very stupid and not needed.
Insult to the Star Wars prequels.
I would say at least the prequels were a little bit better than that concept, though. But yeah, this is a complete retooling.
That's an insult to the prequels. I'm just saying.
I know. I just don't really care for the prequels, and maybe at some point we'll do a discussion on that as well on one of these podcast episodes. But yeah, getting back to Broly. Broly was interesting here because, again, not only was this a character that most people were familiar with, and Akira Toriyama even acknowledged, like, yeah, this Broly character seems to be pretty popular. So I decided, to take my little spin and tweak some things. Like, there is some animosity towards the Saiyans, but it's towards Vegeta and his lineage, because they have legitimate beef with King Vegeta. He was exiling him to a planet where he was ultimately going to die, and Paragus felt some type of way and wanted to go save his son. So that ultimately leads to the reason of why they would be mad at King Vegeta, or why they would be mad at Vegeta. So you already have a different reason. Now, I know some people are going to be like, well, where does Goku play into all of this? Broly actually has no idea who Goku is. He does not call him Kakarot. He didn't even apparently find out he was Kakarot until later on.
He doesn't really care. He's just like, okay, this is a guy in my way.
Yeah, he just happens to be a Saiyan that's in his way, and his father has basically raised him up to go after Vegeta. This is what he's been training for. And so now that we've kind of basically touched on Broly a little bit, let's talk about some of the character performances here. Of course, we're going to start with Goku. You got to start with my boy Goku. Okay, so in terms of Goku here, he's his normal playful self, wants to fight strong opponents. The Tournament of Power was really eye-opening to him, as he says in the sub and dub, and so he wants to get strong. He still wants to push himself. And one of the things that I can say about Masako Nozawa and Sean Simmel's portrayal of this character was both of them have nailed Goku's character. At this point, they're seasoned veterans, and they know exactly what they're doing with this character. And so watching him on the big screen, just the big lug that he is, I loved seeing him. And again, Toriyama, he didn't have Goku fall into that typical stereotypical formula like he does in most movies. He was more like a mentor role in this film, because instead of trying to fight Broly, yeah, he was excited to fight Broly, but he wasn't fighting him to the death. He wasn't trying to kill Broly. He wanted to be like Broly's mentor. He wanted to teach him. But what did you think about Goku's character, Neos? Anything stick out to you particularly about his character in this film?
Well, I mean, Goku's pretty much himself. He can't really be anybody else. All he wants to do is just fight someone strong. He really doesn't care.
But yeah, I agree with what you said. Goku is basically Goku. If anything, I would say the more focus here in this film were not only Broly, because again, this is Broly's movie, but we got a little bit more from Vegeta's character. Now, Vegeta's motivation to get stronger is something more interesting and something that, I can really get behind, as opposed to the typical, I just want to get stronger just to get stronger because there's people out there. Vegeta has a legitimate reason for wanting to be stronger, and he points this out to Goku like, you brought Frieza back. You brought this monster back to life. That's why I want to get stronger, because the last time we tried to, he got brought back, he almost killed the Earth. And technically he did succeed, and if Whis wouldn't have been there with his MacGuffin of a staff, Earth would have been done for.
I mean, he's still the same angry, pissed off dude. I like his new motivation, but lot of the same. Having grown up with a lot of these characters, you kind of already know them, much new about them to explain.
That's true. A lot of people say that Vegeta's story was completed at the beginning of the Boo saga when he sacrificed himself against Boo. You still got a little bit more character development with him through Super, like seeing how attentive he is to Bulma when she's pregnant with his second child, his overall demeanor about training and wanting to get stronger. He still wants to be the best. We also get to see that he chooses to go his own way and not always do what Goku does. Like, he could have very easily, you know, sacrificed his pride and attained Master Ultra Instinct, but instead he decided to go and do it his own way. And then this is when we get the Blue Evolution form, which is so very interesting, which I'll go ahead and say that now. Ultra Instinct does not make an appearance in this movie, neither does Blue Evolution. There is a scene where they kind of tease us a little bit with those transformations, but it does not happen. So if you're going into this film, haven't seen it, and you're looking to see Mastered Super Saiyan, or excuse me, you're looking to go see Mastered Ultra Instinct or Ultra Instinct Omen, yeah, none of that happens.
Standout characters, honestly, Frieza, Broly, Paragus. The ones that got the most development.
I agree. I agree. Some of the side characters, Bulma, she's Bulma. It's just Bulma, basically. I love how she's shallow and vain in this movie, and Frieza, to an extent, is just as shallow and vain. Frieza is always an interesting character because, again, I call him chaotic good because sometimes he's chaotic evil and he's just out for evil motivation, but at the same time, he's chaotic good as well. So you never know what side of the spectrum he's going to land on, but you always know he's never going to go full good. Again, Paragus. Paragus is one of the characters I feel like we definitely have to talk about. We'll talk about him more when we get to the spoiler section, but I like what Toriyama did with his character. He could have easily have made him just like he was in the other film. No real motivation other than to kill King Vegeta. He has legitimate motivation for wanting King Vegeta's head. He has a legitimate motivation for training his son. We actually saw he actually cares about his son, a Saiyan who cares about his child. Now, not only apparently did we get to see that with Bardock and his and with Goku's mother Gine, but we also got to see Paragus. He really does care about Broly. He has a weird, twisted way about going about it, but he really does care about his son. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risked his life going to the planet to save him in the first place. So I like what they did with this character. Again, he just wasn't a mustache twirling villain like he was in the legendary Super Saiyan film. He wasn't just a character that really didn't need to be there. He actually helped advance the plot a lot of times throughout the film and gave us exposition where we needed exposition to be. Any thoughts on Paragus, man?
And not more than you haven't said already. And I mean, that was almost a spoiler review. Dang, man.
Almost. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff within this movie because this is the longest movie so far, beating out Battle of Gods and beating out Resurrection of F in terms of time. So there's a lot of stuff we still haven't covered. And so the last character, of course, is our main titled character of Broly. What did we think of Broly? I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Broly is definitely way better than his old counterpart. He was well more interesting. He actually could speak and could talk. He wasn't just some brute meathead who just bulked up and just lost his mind. He does that, but he still can speak. He still has a legitimate backstory. He has actual relationships, possibly a love interest in this movie. And the main thing about this is this was Broly's story. Now, in the original film, you could argue that that was Broly's story, but we spent most of our time with Paragus and with the main Z fighters, and Broly just happened to be in the background. In this, no, the main focus stays on Broly the entire time. Now, there are moments where we shift focus on the Goku and Vegeta and what they're doing, or what Frieza's doing, or what Beerus is doing, but the main focus always centers back around to Broly. And that is what you need to do in films. When you have a film like the legendary Super Saiyan where you're just built on...
He's the title character. like, if they did it like the old one, they really couldn't get away with it.
Right, exactly.
They made him the main focus of this movie. They had to.
And that's what I like to see. I like to see movies where if your name is on the title card, if this movie's named after you, then damn well sure better get a lot of you in the movie. And again, you got to see a lot of him in his original 3 movies, but there wasn't really much to break down, basically.
I mean, this ain't that Broly. We're not talking about the old versions of him anymore. And that's the whole thing of it.
Thank goodness. I'm not going to lie. And I don't know what they're going to planning to do, you know, with the old Broly character. Obviously, he's still going to be a fan favorite to some people. He's still going to be in video games and still probably be in Dragon Ball Heroes. But of course, now we have this new Broly. So it'll be interesting if they ever do end up meeting each other. I wonder what their conversation would be. One would probably just holler Kakarot the whole time. The other one would probably be like, this guy's a meathead. He probably would actually even vocalize and say that as a meathead.
I probably imagine it like this. It's just one screams Kakarot and the other's just like, what's wrong with you?
Basically, yeah. Today's sponsor is brought to you by Haze Vapory, Rad Rat Customs, and Disorder Coil Works. Now, if you guys do not recognize any of these name brands, they're vaping brands. And I have never vaped a day in my life. I'm not going to lie. For the longest time, I thought vape was the same thing as those e-cigarettes where it's like water vapor coming out.
I'm going to make the Tumblr girl joke now. Triggered.
Oh, Lord, you're finna trigger somebody.
Probably. But anyway, so yeah, like Mike said, this video is sponsored by Haze Vapory out of San Antonio, Rad Rat Customs out of San Antonio, and Disorder Coil Works out of San Antonio. All your vaping needs.
You want to elaborate a little bit for the people who don't know what vaping is? Because I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm dumb and don't know what vaping is. But at the same time, there are a lot of people out there who don't know what it is or know some of the positives to vaping or some of the negatives to vaping.
Well, I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years, so I guess I can elaborate a little bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail because there's a lot behind it. Started it as was a smoking alternative. People got tired of the chemicals in cigarettes that would actually, you know, murder their lungs, cause lung cancer, destroy them. But they still needed the nicotine because they had become addicted to it. An alternate has vegetable glycerin, propylene glycol, and flavoring and nicotine in the e-liquid. It's all just a matter of getting a device, whether you want a pod system or a sub-ohm system, which there's more electrical theory that goes into that, which I can't really get into too much because this is a small slot. But essentially, it was just a safer alternative, and it's been pretty much all over Europe. Every journal of medicine has declared it 95% safer than smoking. Fully safe, because the simple fact you are still inhaling something into your lungs. So if you've never smoked before, I wouldn't recommend doing it. If you just want to try it, go with the Zero Nic if you've never smoked.
All right, then. Hey, man, like I said, I appreciate you elaborating for our listeners because, again, a lot of people out there just see people like vaping and they just want to just say, hey, that looks kind of cool. I want to do it. At least, you know, now you have a little bit of insight onto Vapory. And again, big shout out to Haze Vapory, Rad Rat Customs, and Disorder Coil Works. Make sure you go check those guys out in their social media. I'll make sure I have those listed in the appropriate areas. All right, guys, we've reached that point now. We're going into full spoiler breakdown mode. We're going to be spoiling the crap out of this movie. We're going to be getting into detail. We're going to be talking about the plot now. We're going to get a little bit more into the center of that. We're going to talk about the character performances and what they do. We're going to talk about the positives, what did work, the negatives, what didn't work. And then overall, we're going to give our final thoughts on the film. And just as a little precursor to this, I actually have not discussed with Neos what he thinks about this movie at all. So I do not even know how he feels about this movie other than what I've just heard in the non-spoiler section, what we were just talking about. So, all right, man.
He's going to get so triggered halfway through this.
Oh, well, hey, man, if people get triggered, people get triggered. I mean, people get triggered by anything nowadays. But, all right, so
This is true. I'm going to ramble it off quick, so it won't be long.
Right, I got you. So we've already gone into the plot breakdown. I don't think we need to go into the plot breakdown. But if you want a little bit more of the story, again, we do get to see King Cold. We get to see the entire Frieza Force. We get to see Zarbon, Dodoria. We get to see the Ginyu Force. They all show up on the original planet Vegeta. And so this is all taking place in the past, and this is setting up the backstory of Vegeta and of Goku / Kakarot and of Broly, and how their destinies would end up being intertwined by one fateful encounter that happened. And so, of course, Frieza is the inciting threat in this, I guess, or is the inciting reason that they all end up meeting at the end of the day. Because when you think about it, okay, so Broly got sent off.
King Cold retiring.
Do what now?
And King Cold retires, and he introduces what is now the Frieza Force.
Right, exactly. So it's no longer the King Cold Force, but now the Frieza Force. And look, I know some of you are also going to bring up why the heck was he like all pink and squishy looking. They don't explain it. The DVD, Blu-ray, maybe when it comes out, they'll explain something. Maybe Shintani just want to go in a different direction with Frieza's original design. Honestly, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. I mean, Frieza still does what Frieza does, and Frieza is basically the inciting incident that leads all three of these together, because if you don't know, Broly gets sent off world because his power is just so enormous and irregular. So he gets sent off to a planet, and then his dad goes after him. Soon after, they are stuck and marooned on planet Vampa. But then we also get introduced to Vegeta's side of where he plays into all of this. So Frieza's paranoid. We all know he was paranoid. He was going around apparently asking people about the Super Saiyan legend and the Super Saiyan God legend, because I guess he was worried that somebody was going to threaten his power. This just leads into Frieza and his massive amounts of paranoia, which still continues to this day. So you have Frieza here, decides, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to wipe all of them out at once. So he makes out the corporate call. Everybody is ordered to come back to Planet Vegeta. For all of that, Bardock and Gine, they both decide to steal a Saiyan pod, and they send their son Goku, or Kakarot, to Earth. Then, of course, we all know the ultimate fate. Bardock tries to make a final stand. It doesn't work. Frieza wipes out the entire planet race. Boom. Planet Vegeta is now gone. And the only Saiyans we are left with, besides a small handful of Saiyans that were working with Vegeta at the time. Then, of course, the series progresses like it does. We all know how Goku and Vegeta ended up meeting, how Raditz played into all of that, and then how they eventually, you know, slowly but surely became rivals and slowly led to an eternal friendship throughout the series of Dragon Ball Z.
And you get to everything, get through everything, all the past, all the series. You get to see Cell get his ass kicked, Frieza, pretty much everything.
Right, exactly. And then we get set in present day, where again you have the dialogue between Goku and Vegeta about why they want to get stronger. We kind of already went over that earlier. But now we get introduced to a grown-up Broly. Broly has been marooned on this planet for, I think it said 16 years. So he's a full-grown adult at this point. His dad, Paragus, has gone mad and crazy, and even looks like a mad, crazy man when Chilai and Lemo actually find him on that planet. But this is how Frieza ties into all of this. Frieza took Vegeta in as his own and made him what he was for the longest time. Goku put an end to that and avenged not only his Saiyan race and his best friend Krillin, but also avenged all the Namekians as well, and got him a great challenging fight out of as well. Plus, he was able to attain the legendary Super Saiyan form, which Frieza feared all those years ago, which led him to destroy Planet Vegeta in the first place. So that's how Goku and Vegeta met, due to Frieza, because again, they were working still for Frieza and were looking for Kakarot to help them conquer planets. That's how Raditz got involved. Raditz dies, Nappa and Vegeta hear the signal, then they come to Earth. Then, of course, the whole Saiyan arc ends right there with Vegeta and Nappa being defeated. Then they go and encounter Frieza. Frieza dies. He comes back a bunch of times, yada, yada, you know the story. Then when we pick up with Dragon Ball Super Broly, it's because of Frieza's wish of trying to find strong people to recruit for his army that Chilai and Lemo, we get introduced to them. They go out and they actually are the ones that find Paragus and Broly and ultimately bring him to Earth to fight and encounter Goku and Vegeta. So that's why I say Frieza is a common link between these three Saiyans when you look at it that way. And so, jumping right into talking about Frieza, his character performance in this movie, I'm not gonna lie, I really did enjoy seeing Frieza in this movie because I didn't know how he was gonna play into this movie. I didn't know if it was gonna be a situation where he teams up with Goku and Vegeta and they have to take on Broly because he's a threat not only to the Earth but to the universe in general. Because we've seen if Frieza gets involved, it's only because the universe is probably going to be destroyed. Hence the reason why he did what he did at the end of the series, to stop Jiren so they wouldn't end up losing.
Honestly, I'm going to be real. In this movie, I really did. I wanted so badly for him to die again. I thought the ending of Super was completely stupid. I thought giving him life back was the dumbest thing you could have ever done.
I mean, I understand why they did it, so they could tell future stories with him in there and create conflict here and there for the Saiyans. Because again, now that he's gotten a taste of what it's like to train, he's going to probably continue to train and train and train. So that also is going to have to push Goku and Vegeta to keep training and training and training. Otherwise, we'll have a situation where Frieza comes back even stronger than before and does what he does again. Instead, this time, Whis might not be around with his MacGuffin staff to reverse time backwards or to even stop Goku or even stop Frieza this time around.
Okay, true. But if we're talking in the context of this movie, Frieza, honestly, all he really does as a kid, be a cocky little douche. A few years, he finds Broly and Paragus, lets him stay with him for a while. Once he picked him up, first off, let's just talk about that fight in the kitchen scene where Broly literally almost killed the guy. I don't know, maybe it's my love of the horror genre as well, but
yeah, that was a scene where I didn't know how it was gonna go. That, leads into, Broly's character of him being, as chivalrous as he is, because he was starting to form this bond with Chi-Lai. And so when this guy comes over in a drunken manner and tries to hit on Chi-Lai, again, he hasn't had the proper interaction skills with other people other than his father, so he doesn't know how to, just say, hey man, the lady said leave her alone. All he knows is, hey, you're annoying someone who's actually been really nice to me. Get out of here or I'm going to kill you. Which, leads into the whole crux of the film where, Paragus has to use the button to shock Broly and control him. But I'm not going to lie, this looks even more painful than it did in the original film. In the original film, he wore it as like a crown around his head and it just glowed. This one, it's a shock collar, a full-on shock collar, and we see how powerful it is and how bad it hurts. Now, what I want to know is, where did he get that shock collar from?
Where can I get one? For reasons.
Right? Like, yeah, the next time somebody tries to come at you, like maybe an ex or someone you don't like, throw that on and be like, all right, come near me again. Boom, I got you.
The application I was thinking of, but okay. Right, but anyways, back to the plot. So Frieza really doesn't contribute to it too much. You really see him. He's coming to Earth to get revenge with Broly's power. He kills Paragus, gets his ass kicked for like an hour and a half is the implied thing, while Goku and Vegeta go off to fuse. You get to see the first appearance of Super Saiyan God Vegeta. Really doesn't amount to much, and you're kind of left with more to wonder.
Vegeta, as much of a sourpuss as he is, he wasn't as hesitant against fusion as he normally is, because he knows, yeah, if we don't do this, he's probably going to destroy the entire Earth because there's nothing we can do apart. His biggest thing was someone seeing him and him having to do that ridiculous dance, as opposed to if they had the Patara and they popped them on, it's no big deal. But yeah, I do like the inclusion of fusion. I like what it did. Because again, we got to see, Goku and Vegeta actually work together, because Whis has never seen them work together before. He's never, seen Vegeta. He's never met Vegeta. He's probably only heard about him. He actually gets to see Gogeta. And I like what Shintani's design of Gogeta. I love how he got to rattle off all of his moves consecutively. Not only did we get to see him do the Final Flash and the Kamehameha Wave, we got to see him do the Stardust Breaker. We got to see him do the Soul Punisher. We got to see him do the Super Explosion Wave. We got to see him go through all of his stages of base form, Super Saiyan. I would have loved to see him in Super Saiyan God, but we didn't. Went straight to Super Saiyan Blue. We got to see him go through all of his stages, and I love it. I love how the ending is basically just one big action scene. So I like what, Toriyama did with the character of Gogeta, and I love how he included him in this film because it showed that Goku and Vegeta can work together, even more so now after Dragon Ball Super's end. They can work together more because we saw them clearly working together in the Universal Survival arc. Now we got to see them work together, and it culminated even better. So I love Gogeta. Again, we kind of already touched on our thoughts on Goku and Vegeta. The only other thing I'd say about Goku is I mentioned how he had more of a mentor role in this film. I would agree that he does because at one point he uses this move called the God Bind in his Super Saiyan God form, where he just sits there and freezes Broly, and he's just like, hey man, I just want to talk. He's like, you don't seem like an inherently bad guy. I sense no evil coming out of you. He's like, your dad probably, you know, just trained you up just to be a fighter and, you know, never really taught you anything else. He just taught you how to fight. And you look like you really don't want to kill me or kill Vegeta here. And, you know, of course, it's great to see Broly reverse that on him, turning the God Bind into, you know, Goku's greatest threat. And then, of course, you know, we mentioned up, you know, in the spoiler, in the non-spoiler version, about what Vegeta did and his questionable actions. It looked like Vegeta was trying to kill Broly, especially when they had their initial first scuffle when he was in his Super Saiyan God form. Yeah, it looked like he was trying to straight up kill him, and he would have killed him if Broly wouldn't have woken up and tapped into that Uzaru power that his dad mentioned.
Yeah, like he would have straight up died. Vegeta would have killed him because that was self-defense at that point.
Right. It's just like, you know, people make the argument that Batman doesn't kill. I mean, Batman doesn't inherently set out to kill people, but in a combat situation, you might die because somebody's coming after you.
Then I would just like to point out two great parts of the movie. When Gogeta showed up in front of Whis and was just like, I got it. And then...
oh, yeah, and Whis like, oh, my.
Yep. And then about the hour mark of the movie, Goku just started fighting Broly. And you get this nice little Naruto tribute where Goku uses like this Rasengan-esque key thing to just try to hit Broly, and Broly's just like, nope, screw you, man. But also just like to say, that is another example of anime characters' main character powers just coming to full light.
Well, I know some people had a lot of problem with how is Broly as strong as he is when our characters have been doing all this training. All he's been doing is just training with Paragus. He couldn't have gotten that strong by doing that.
Very true.
To that, I would argue and say, not necessarily. I mean, again, we heard Paragus say that he was tapping into his Ozaru form, and then he ends up eventually going Super Saiyan when he sees that his father has died. So now you have him already in his Uzaru form, stack Super Saiyan on top of that now. Then when he ends up getting even angrier and releasing more of that pent-up aggression and anger about his father dying, then goes into his legendary form. And we see that he obviously has a limit because Gogeta beat him down senseless, and Gogeta was about to end him. And if Chi-Lai and Lemma wouldn't have stepped in with that Dragon Ball wish, Broly would be dead. I will say that was one of the things that was interesting because I really thought they were going to kill Broly in this movie because they have killed Broly basically in every single movie. But the fact that Toriyama subverted our expectations with that and what we have come to expect, he changed that and left Broly to fight another day. And now we see that he might have a relationship with Goku and Vegeta in the future. But also we see now that Frieza... now he has seen what Broly is capable of, he might try to come and spin some wheels in Broly's head and get him to come to his side.
My thoughts on that, just, I hate that they left Broly alive. I really do. Like, let him take the L and bring him back in the series later. That's what you have Dragon Balls for. I actually did like them. They were a nice, interesting touch in there. And main fight, hate. It's just, it took to it. It was action for over an hour.
Which is what a lot of fans had complained about because they said with Battle of Gods, it was more focused on story and not enough action. Then with Resurrection F, there was basically no story and it was all action. So with this one, he tried to do a longer story by having story and having lots of action because you get about an hour of story and then an hour of straight up action.
I mean, I was looking at it like this. Yes, I still do not like the movie completely. Like, as a viewer, I didn't like it. As an anime fangirl, I was basically pissing my pants. It was great. But if we're looking at it from movie perspective, yes, they did tell a lot of story. Yes, they blended some of the story with a lot of the action. That was still action, and a lot of it was pointless action. That's what I think I didn't like. Was that full-on, just pointless, no need for it action, just come out of the blue. I didn't really care to see them fail twice, though don't get me wrong, I am a typical Frieza hater. I love to see Frieza get his ass kicked.
Yes, the implied nature of him having to fight Broly in his powered-up form for an hour. But hey, that leads to credence about him having perfect control over his golden form now.
That's true, but also, it didn't really do him much.
It probably kept him from getting an ass whooping like he got with Toppo, at least.
Okay, this is true. Alright, as far as what I think did work with the movie, I'm gonna go ahead and skip to that part. Did work was the new backstories. The new way they do the pods and how they keep them in actual separate rooms. That way Broly and Goku could not meet as kids. A stupid subplot. I like the whole thing about the pelts around Broly's waist.
Ah, his relationship with Ba.
And how Paragus is a Zerma called Pete on his ass. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm not. Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
Hey, go right on ahead, man. This is unfiltered, so.
Okay. And I mean, as far as what didn't work.
I mean, you basically listed what you thought didn't work about bringing Broly, you know, having him survive at the end of the movie. The inclusion of Frieza in general in this movie. How it was just nonstop action towards the end, and there was really no point to the action other than just to give us the best anime fight we've seen on screen in a long time. And I can see with those points, and I can stand behind a couple of those points. In terms of, for me, some positives and what did work, Broly worked. Like I said, I mentioned up top, I love how this was focused on Broly. Yes, we got some great character moments out of Goku, Vegeta, Frieza, Bulma. Everybody that was in this movie got a little bit of a one-liner or a standout moment. Oh, even baby Bra got a little moment. But the story stayed focused on Broly. And I love that. I love how it stayed focused on Broly and didn't take the focus off Broly. Even when they were fighting, a lot of it we were watching not only from the third person perspective, but we started to watch it through the eyes of Broly. So it's like we're actually engaged in battle with Goku and Vegeta and Gogeta at the end.
Okay, I like.
So it kept us engaged.
I like that too. It was pretty awesome.
Right, exactly, and that's something we've never seen in Dragon Ball. We've never seen it from anybody else's perspective except for the main Z fighters. We've never seen it from the villain's perspective. They kind of took a Infinity War approach to it, where you have the villain being the main center of this story, where he thinks he's not the villain, he's actually the good guy, and in a way, Broly actually is the good guy in this movie. The only reason he is set up as a villain is because of his father Paragus and his hatred towards King Vegeta, which is, I can understand that. In terms of the negatives, what didn't work for me, the only thing that didn't work for me personally was, I can't really think of too many things that didn't work for me. Everything kind of worked for me. Like I said, the whole thing with Frieza fighting for an hour, it being implied that he fought Broly for an hour, and Broly at that point was still going strong for an hour. I understand how silly and ridiculous that sounds, but at the same time, it's Toriyama. I know that was just there for gag because, you know, he wanted to rattle off and show that, you know, Goku and Vegeta are just not learning this. Because look at it this way. People would have complained if they would have did the dance the first time and then got it right. People would be like, wait a minute, Vegeta's never done the dance, and it took Goten and Trunks almost a day and a half to learn how to do it right. How does Vegeta learn it that quick? Because it is a hard dance to learn because you have to mimic perfectly what the other person is doing. So I like the inclusion. I don't think they had to go through two failed forms. I think they could have just stuck with Veku, the fat version, and we could have skipped the old man version. But I'm not going to complain that we got to see him in the film. Again, like I said, nothing really didn't work with me. The only thing that didn't work with me was the beginning half of the movie. While I understood what it was trying to do, and I'm so glad that we have, you know, Bardock, you know, having this relationship with his son, and, you know, Goku's mother is now canon. She has been brought into the main story thanks to, you know, the inclusion of the Dragon Ball minus manga, which was adapted into the beginning of this. I think, like I said, what didn't work for me had to be the beginning because it felt like it didn't fit. I felt like you could have chopped up a little bit more of that and you could have not added some of the things in, like the whole stuff with King Cold. I would have kept that. You know, the whole stuff with Goku and with Bardock and Gine talking with Goku and sending him off. That was fine. I understand that. The whole scene with, you know, Paragus, you know, being upset with King Vegeta, all of that was fine. But some of the little extra stuff, I don't think you necessarily need to see. Like, we didn't need to see Paragus go to Vampa and find Broly and like, oh, he's already transformed into his Ozaru form, and then have him kill that one guy. We didn't need to see all of that. All of that could have been cut out, I think. That was just a little bit padding, just to kind of, so the story wouldn't seem as rushed and paced, which I can understand that.
And final thoughts on the whole thing, I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Not enough to make it one of my worst movies, but not enough to put it up there with stuff like Infinity War, Titanic, Avatar, and...
So you're basically just listing off the films that have hit the $2 billion mark.
Much, and all of the Harry Potter series. I'm sorry. That's going to be a hard one to do top for me. But as far as if I was to rate it amongst the Dragon Ball series, 10 out of 10. It's a movie. It's just, it doesn't hit my top tier, and that's why I hate it.
But in terms of my final thoughts on the overall film, I loved it. I thought it was a great inclusion to the Dragon Ball franchise and the series as a whole. I loved it. I thought what they did with Broly was amazing. Again, I made the comparison to Thanos. While Thanos definitely is still a more compelling character than Broly, Broly just wasn't a one-dimensional character in this movie. He had layers to him. He had emotion. He had feelings, especially when we got to see his flashback scene with Ba and how he actually made a friend. And I'm not going to lie, I hope him and Ba end up becoming friends again, because that will be an interesting thing to see. And again, even with Paragus, they gave us some sympathy for Paragus, because again, imagine if someone took your child from you and sent them off to die. You would have a grudge and want to be a little pissed off at the king as well, and would want to do something about it. Now, again, I don't like his methods of what he did. I would again compare him to Frieza, chaotic good, chaotic evil, because sometimes it seems like he's chaotic good for the good of the story, but then sometimes he seems like he's chaotic evil for the sake of the story. And of course, Chi-Lai is Bae, and I'm not gonna lie, they had to add that scene in there where she shows how stretchy the suit is. Toriyama, I know what you did there. You're trying to be like Oda Sensei from One Piece, who gives us lots of good fan service. And I appreciate that, because Chi-Lai is Bae. And I'm not going to lie, I hope her and Broly do get together. I hope they do end up forming this relationship. I like the relationship that they set up with Chi-Lai and Broly, whether they end up making it a romantic one or they just end up making it more of a brother-sister relationship. And of course, I love the relationship Lemo plays with Chi-Lai, learning about their backstories, why they're in the Frieza Forest, and how they ultimately tie back to Broly and finding Broly and are ultimately living with them on the planet. In terms of a score, I'm actually going to go with a solid 8.5 out of 10. To me, this is the best Dragon Ball Z film I have seen to date. To me, it goes Dragon Ball Super Broly, then Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods, and then Resurrection F is at the bottom, because I felt like this took the best from both of those movies. You had a solid story, but had solid action that played into the main crux of the story. Plus, like I said, we got to see two dudes break the dimension. Whenever that happens in a film, sold. I am absolutely sold. But man, did you have anything else you wanted to add about Dragon Ball Super Broly? Any other kind of final thoughts or any final words you want to say to the people before we get ready to wrap up?
I'm stewing over it. I'm trying to think of a clever thing to call this movie, a clever little nickname.
I guess you could call him a baby. This a baby Infinity War or a baby Thanos origin story.
I was going to say the story of,
because again, the comparisons to Infinity War are clearly obvious.
I was going to say summary of the whole movie. Gigantic man-child with extreme power who's suffering from extreme parental abuse. Go watch it.
All right. And there you have it, sweaties. Mine and Neospace's unfiltered thoughts on the movie Dragon Ball Super Broly. What did you personally think of the film? Are you excited to see it again once it releases April 16th?
Yes.
And do you plan to buy it when it does?
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts on the movie in the comments section below. Once again, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, and hey, subscribe so you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. And if you're listening on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., then make sure you add us to your favorites list and leave a review. I'd like to personally thank my co-host, Neospace, for sweating it up with me today. Neo, please tell the people where they can find you on social media, man.
All right, man. You can find me on Instagram at Neospace_Cloudian. That's all lowercase. And, well, you can find me on YouTube when I actually finally get my channel up and running. Now, just Instagram right now.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, man. Keep it very simple. And you guys can simply follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at officialms21 and on YouTube at MikeySavage21. Thank you again so much for tuning in, and I hope you all have a sweat-tastic day. This is your boy, Mikey Savage 21 and Neospace, signing out with your weekly Sweaty Review. Peace out, Sweaties.
Later, peoples.